Hey, get in here. Dallas is about to start.
Welcome to the Ewing Barbecue Podcast, the DOA, that's Daughters of the Alamo, not Dead on Arrival, although this guest was dead on arrival after doing a nosedive off a balcony. Oh, man. We are... It was in the script, that's what we'll say, yes. This is a Southfork Experience series, episode... I believe this is episode 10 of this series, as we get ready for the Southfork Experience taking place in Dallas at Southfork Ranch before they start building all around the mansion in the next year or two. We are joined by Nicholas Pierce, Joey Lombardi, Jack Scalia is here. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you, Josh. Pleasure to be here.
How are you? Obviously, we met at the Burbank Hollywood show out there.
That's right. That was fun.
That was fun. That was a great time. Was that one of your first fan conventions? I haven't seen you on it.
Yes.
Wow. What did you think of that?
I had an amazing time. Well, in this business, first of all, I got to see Lee Taylor young. Lee Taylor and I go back to when I was doing a series with Rock Hudson, The Devil Connection, where I was playing his son, and Lee Taylor was his secretary. So it was my second job with Rock, but my first Lee Taylor, and I hadn't seen her in it's 40 years maybe. So she looked fabulous and beautiful as always.
Probably since she played Kimberly Kreider on Dallas.
Yes, absolutely. But I did work, and I was in that same season when she was there. She was there longer than I was. But yeah, and it was just a great to see her, to see to get together with Linda again. And I found out Linda lives right around the corner from where I live. So now we bump into each other in the mornings when I'm going to walk the dog, and it was fabulous seeing everyone.
And yeah, you actually, let me bring this up here.
Bring up whatever you want.
Bring up whatever I want. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. I got to share screen here, so let's see. I just got some stuff from that weekend. There you are with Denon Simpson, who played Kendall on Dallas.
Yes, she did.
Gone is your 80s hair that
well, I cut it. It's not it's gone, yeah. So times change. It's 40 odd years later, whatever it is. So it was that was in 87, so it's not quite that long.
Right.
37 years.
The styles have changed too, because the 80s was hair, and the women had the shoulder pads, but
right, and the colors changed somewhat.
Somewhat, yes. And there is Melody Anderson, who actually was in one episode of Dallas, played Dusty Farlow's wife. She stopped by and saw you there.
It was great. I mean, Priscilla was there, and Linda was there, and Patrick was there.
Christopher Atkins.
Yes, Christopher was there. It's just that's one of to me the blessings and the experiences that in working in our business is the relationships that you develop, the friendships that you continue with. It's just you can't pay for that. You can't buy that. It's a richness that is priceless.
And
everybody.
I'll insert it after, but there was I had a picture of you and Linda and you and Cherie that was there.
That's right.
It was interesting on Dallas. You had a scene in an episode where you had a woman in your bed.
I did?
Yeah, surprisingly. And
was it Linda?
No, it was Kimberly Foster, who ended up playing Cherie's sister later on. So that was kind of interesting.
Nothing happened. It was just, one of those, she stopped by, I guess.
Just stopped by. So, just ended up, you end up, just getting comfortable and chatting. So, it's funny you mentioned Lee Taylor Young. She ended up playing on picket fences. She ended up playing the mayor, Rachel Harris, who happened to be a lingerie ingenue, as I would say there. And you actually had early in your career were doing underwear modeling, and there's an interesting quote that said, "You stopped doing liquor ads and underwear ads rather early in your modeling career because they brought you a lot of recognition and you got to work with great photographers, but you've tried very hard to keep your morals intact, and you believe in the family, I believe in God, and I believe in my country, and I'm
Yes.
pretty tight with those three things." So that was the
Still
end
hold.
of, and that kind of brought an end to the underwear modeling. So
Well, yeah, but I also think that there was some younger guys that come in and they wanted to use those guys, and so I just kind of built around that. The young buck.
yes, we were talking before we went on about you played football in high school and college, and
Football, basketball, baseball.
oh, you had hit the trifecta there.
Yeah, and then into professional baseball. So,
Yeah, and actually, Josh Harris, who was at the Burbank show, who played Patrick Duffy's son, he was in the minor league system with the Chicago Cubs. And Patrick's nephew, I'm sure you've heard of, Barry Zito.
yeah, he's having a year for the Yankees. Sorry, Josh.
All right, this is over. No. 2004.
From Brooklyn. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, you came, obviously you're from Brooklyn, and you grew up there. It's in 1970, you were drafted third by the Montreal Expos.
Yeah. Third, I was their number one pick. I was third overall.
Okay. And where did that go, and how did you transition over to the acting?
Well, that we don't have the time, but I'll try to truncate it. No, from the professional baseball, then I had an injury at the end. It was the last game of the season in my second year. And then went back for my third spring training, and I was a pitcher, and the injury just did not get better. So I was given my pink slip, and then that was the end of that. So I kind of went out into the world and tried to hitchhiked across the country, wound up in California, met a person who said, I showed her some pictures I had, and this was in Sacramento, California. And she said, you should be in San Francisco. I said, well, do you want to take me there? She said, sure. I went to San Francisco, started with an agency there, gourmet agency. Then after a few years there, went to New York. No agency would have me. And then I bumped into some other person at a party, and they took me to London, then to Italy, and then didn't work there for 6 months. Then I did a 6-page spread for the Walmart Gold for Giorgio Armani. Things changed, went to New York, to Ford models, and things started to happen there. However, at that time, and I've talked about it a little bit before, I've talked about it, but not a lot. During those years, I was drugs and alcohol and rock and roll and all that sort of stuff. So the reason why I bring that up is that I had a spiritual experience on a 12-story window ledge in Munich, Germany, on a modeling assignment. Wound up getting spoke to my random president of Ford Models, Joe Hunter. He said, get on the next plane tomorrow morning. You're in the rehab day after tomorrow. Went into rehab. This date we're in right now is kind of fortuitous. Is September 27th, 1979 was my last drink. And so here I am getting ready to celebrate 45 years through the grace of God and working the program.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That happens to be the day after my birthday, and that is the late singer Meatloaf was born September 27th, 1947. Okay. So
happy birthday.
Thank you. I'll be spending it with a couple of your Dallas co-stars who actually were kind of fangirling when they found out you were in Burbank. Deb Renard, who played Sly, Deb Trinelli.
Wow.
I'll be down in What's that?
Paisana.
Paisana.
Yeah, Italian.
Yes. And I'll be down in New Jersey with them for Deb Bernard and Al Sapienza are opening for the Fifth Dimension
Oh,
and
nice.
and Darlene Love.
Marilyn and Billy.
Marilyn and Billy, that's right, yes.
Yeah.
And
Give them my love.
oh, I will. And Deb say hello too. They said, do not get on there without saying hello to Jack. And they were fangirling. So
Thank you.
now, being in the business, you I know Charlene Tilton talked about it when she was on, how she basically had some fangirl experiences as an actress for other people. Have you basically had the maybe fanboy equivalent of, oh, I can't believe I'm working with this person, or I'm just in awe of meeting this person?
Yeah, I mean, meaning, yes, there's a long, long list. I mean, that could be guys too, but we're talking about girls, women. So, well, Elizabeth Taylor. I got to work with Farrah. I did two films with Farrah Fawcett, with Raquel Welch, with Bo Derek. So it was more of Elizabeth Taylor, where I was one of the few times I was speechless. It was just, she was as beautiful as every picture I'd ever seen her in, and it was at a party at Rock Hudson's house, who's my mentor in the business. So it was the eyes, the face, the smile. It was all of that. It was also with Sally Fields, same thing. That way, it was easier for me to talk with her, and I'm trying to think of her name, but she won the Academy Award for Key Largo. Gosh darn it, I will think of it. Humphrey
Lauren Bacall?
No, Lauren Bacall, Humphrey Bogart, and she played the drunk in it. She was in Stagecoach. She did a gazillion movies. And then Barbara Bel Geddes was another one that I was just blown away. I stayed as close to her for as long as possible. She was, because of her history, and I knew a little bit of the history at that time, even though I was a young man in the business. To be with Barbara Bel Geddes, to be with Howard. I mean, this guy, showboat. I mean, go on. The history of the people that were on that show that I worked with was just, always, for me, I was always humbled. And grateful to be around them and with them. And just kind of every once in a while, they'd be off on the side of the set or something. And I would just look at them and go through my mind the films and the work they had done. Pretty amazing.
Now you have me curious. Claire Trevor?
Claire Trevor, that's what it is. And one of my favorite pictures of all time, I was at Rock's house, Rock Hudson, and I have a picture with Claire and with Sally. And I was bookended by 2 Academy Award winners, and it was just an amazing experience. And it was just another lunch at Rock's house. And for me, it was just priceless, But I did want to say one thing, that when I told you I got sober on January 1st, 1980, I said, I think I want to try acting. And I went into I was on the room 704, Robert Modica's, and it was at Carnegie Hall is where I started to study. And that's kind of happened. And 6 months later, 2 of my friends suggested me to this casting director who they had read for him. They said, you don't want me, you want Jack Scalia. And it was my first job, and it was with, they're called The Star Maker. It was with Rock Hudson, Suzanne Plachette, Brenda Vaccaro. It was Fred Dreyer's first job. Melanie Griffith was in it. It was just this great cast. It's like pinch me time, just pinch me. And Suzanne Plachette was just amazing. I played her boyfriend and then husband in the miniseries. So.
And she didn't wake up in bed with Bob Newhart and.
Well, good one. I don't know. She might have, but that was not in the show we did. But,
right. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, but yes, Suzanne Plachette was amazing, and so was Brenda Vaccaro. These were just, for me, people, and I learned at a very early part of my career, you don't say to women like that, I grew up watching you, because, but I didn't say it.
No, yeah. And you mentioned some of the before we went on, a couple of the actors Ernest Borgnine,
Ernest Borgnine, I worked with Cuba Gooding, worked James Woods, the Raquel Welch, Farrah Fawcett, Bo Derek. Of course, you go to the Queen of Daytime, Susan Lucci.
who ended up killing Cherie on Dallas.
Someone had to do it, I guess. I don't know.
Oh,
Cherie's one of my favorite people in the world. She was always on the set, magnanimous and generous, and just a good person, a solid person, and always in a great spirit. And she had that great smile, but her spirit inside was the same way. So, I was already gone from the show. Nicholas was gone, and I don't know how he managed to get me off that balcony, but he did.
probably with a little help from Jeannie. No. Now, it was interesting because that was the first time I was talking with out in Burbank, Kerry Scott Nair, who was the property master on the show at the time, just about filming that balcony fall where they had to close the roads down and throw a dummy over the edge and stuff like that. And it was just...
Hey, that wasn't me. I'm a dummy, but that wasn't me. It was a real dummy.
Well, it wasn't the first time a dummy was used. We just did the season premiere of season 7 where they had the Southfork fire, and the actor who played John Ross was originally a young person named Tyler Banks, and he filmed the scene where they had to jump in the pool, and then they filmed it with Omri Katz, who was in Burbank as well. And I also learned from the on-set tutor that they filmed it with a dummy as well. So they've used dummies before on Dallas, and but that was interesting. It was the first time that the cliffhanger, there was a freeze when you saw the person go over the balcony in midair, and you're like, "Oh, is that JR or Nick or who is it?"
Right.
And then it picked up with you continuing to fall, and then Sue Ellen plugged him full of holes.
Right. I asked Linda the other day, I said, how did you miss him? I mean, not kill him. You shot him 3 times.
Well, Mary Crosby missed too, so those sisters cannot shoot a gun to save your life.
Right. One of the greatest cliffhangers of all time. Who shot JR?
And there was a scene after when Charlene Tilton walks into the living room at Southfork, and she says to Linda, "How did you miss? If you need help next time steadying the gun, I can help you." And Patrick Duffy, Bobby, did not find that humorous at all. And so talk about Linda just for a minute. What was like working with her and then seeing her again in Burbank?
Right. Well, Linda, for a wonderful actress, a beautiful and wonderful actress, a really wonderful person. There's so many words that would be beautiful, talented, incredible spirit, generous. One of the great things about when I went into, I believe it was the 10th season, is they accepted me like I had been there the whole time. And Linda and I have talked about that, afterwards. Like I say, we live just really a 3-minute walk from each other in the same area. We're the same golf country club. And I see when I'm walking my dog, and she still has that beautiful smile. She's still beautiful, still has that great smile, that great energy, funny.
She doesn't look her age, does she?
Not at all. Not at all. We don't even bring that up. But she doesn't. And, and I see her walking almost every morning when I'm out walking my dog. She's still has that magnetism and that electricity about her, that magic that all of the starlets, great actresses have. And she had that back then. And, I had done enough work at that time that when I went on to Dallas, and had the experience that I had, and I believe I was still very much learning my craft, that the way all of them, the way that it was set up, I felt like I'd been there the whole time, and that's what made it special. But Linda in particularly was as warm and as kind and as thoughtful as you would think, more than what I thought was going to happen. And having worked on other, shows and other jobs and had a few series of my own by that time, it was just, oh, okay, I'm just here with the family. And the writing was terrific, and David Jacob was a great producer. I mean, all of these wonderful people they had there. Larry Hagman, they were all that way. They were just Patrick. They were all just very special, very welcoming, and very kind, and offering whatever they could offer it, on a set. And it was, the whole experience was special. But Linda with those eyes, and of course she's famous for doing the shot of The Graduate.
Yep.
For the, and I'd say, let me see your legs. Let me see your legs.
And she ended up being a cougar with Christopher Atkins on the show.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because one of the events, looking at what's going on, you have down in Dallas, you have the cocktail hour on Friday night with the VIPs, autograph sessions Saturday. There are some Q&As, photo ops, the barbecue, concert with Josh Henderson.
Right.
There's the Yellow Rose Gala Foundation's auction that
Yes.
is Cherie's baby for her charity with the multiple sclerosis.
I'm no longer available. I'm married, so
Oh,
can't get off.
you can't make an exception? There are VIP tours, but one of the panels that they're having on Sunday is the Southfork Super Couples Q&A. Patrick Duffy and Cherie, obviously they were a couple, but this part is more like a threesome here. It's you, Christopher, and Linda is part of the Q&A there. So don't throw him over a balcony. He might.
I like Chris.
Yeah. We just had him on. He might injure the Speedo. No. So what are you looking forward to with the fans? I know you interacted with the fans in Burbank and just
Sure. Well, our success, I would say, outside of the talent and the opportunity to be on the show, they're the ones that really made us successful. I mean, yes, of course, David Jacobs and everybody who was part of that, all the cast and the crew, they're the ones that, it's like fans that go to any kind of sporting event, they're the ones that kind of carry everything. And because of what they were being presented with and how much they enjoyed it, the fans, I'll tell you a quick story. When Rock and I met for the second, after we had done the miniseries together, we were walking down Central Park West on a beautiful day, on the 60s, the street, and Rock was 6'5". He's a big guy. You can't miss him. So we're walking down the street on the Central Parks, on the park side, and 20, 30 people come running up to him, and he signs every autograph. And then they walk away. And I said, doesn't that bother you? And he said, it'll bother me when it stops.
Oh.
And that became my marching orders. From that point on, it was that way. And Suzanne Plachette also gave me 5 tips of encouragement and how to conduct myself. She said, 1, you are prepared. 2, you are on time and prepared. 3, you are no better than, no less than. 4, you will not conduct yourself as a-hole. And then she walked away. And I said, well, what's the 5th, Suzanne? And she said, be nice, a-hole. And then that was it. After she came back, gave me a kiss and a hug, he said, you're going to do great, kid. Because she knew I was nervous. It's my first job. But Rock was the one. They gave me my marching orders. Just be generous with your time. Never say no to an autograph and appreciate them. And how can you be any way but accepting and offer yourself when someone walks up to you with a smile, in the sense that they're bringing you, somehow I did something in their life that allowed that smile to be given to me. And so I've always made it, I'm available. I really am. It's just that way.
Well, that seems to have gotten lost on some people in the younger generation now, but possibly. It reminded me of a great story when Dallas came back in 2012, and they were doing a press junket in Pasadena, and somebody got this on video. Linda's outside signing autographs, taking pictures with fans, mm-hmm. and somebody said to her, "Linda, you have to be on stage at 3. We have a schedule to keep." And she stopped and she said, "These people out here are the reason that I am where I am. Those people in there can wait for me." And she signed and finished with everybody that was out there. And I said, that's class. And there was a dinner that I was at with Larry Hagman 5 months before he passed. And after the meal, yes, and I'm sure he'll be hovering over South Fork, his ghost will be ready to kick your butt.
Let's toast.
Yes, gong bong. He went into the kitchen after the meal and shook hands and thanked everyone that prepared the meal and served the meal. And it's just the type of person that he was.
Yep. Old school.
Very old.
That's the way it was.
And speaking of old school, you go ahead.
No, I do. I'm just starting to think of the people that I have my friendships with and relationships with through the years, whether it was Pacino or Ernest Borgnine, whoever it may be, Mr. Sinatra, all of these, the business. But Linda, she still to this day has that magic about her. The smile, the eyes, everything just kind of lightens up. And I say, "Hey, Linda," she goes, "Hi, Jack," and it's wow, it's her. That's who she's always been.
Yeah. It seems to be that way pretty much among the Dallas cast. Charlene was telling me a story about she and Patrick did an event, and it was supposed to end at a certain time, and the line was so long, and Charlene turned to Patrick and goes, "What do we do?" And he goes, "Well, what are we going to do? Go back to our hotels and sit in our hotels? We'll stay here." And they stayed for 3 hours and finished that line after they...
Wow. Yeah.
And... It just shows the class these people have. And I know you mentioned...
Patrick's the same way. Patrick's the same way. I mean, everybody that I know from that time when I worked, they were as they were generous to me. They were generous to their fans. And just like Linda said, she's there because they are here.
And Patrick got snowed in a week after 90s Con. Patrick got snowed in Colorado. No, I mean a week after Burbank. He was supposed to be at a convention in Hartford, and he was snowed in Burbank and Boulder. You don't get snowed in Burbank.
Not happen often.
No. He ended up showing up at 5:30 on that Saturday, a day late. The convention for the day was ending at 6, but he stayed the day before his birthday. He stayed until 7:30 to meet everyone in his line. It's just the type of person he is. And you mentioned before we went on about listening to people tell stories, and just talk about that for a minute. Just what you were telling me.
Well, whenever I would work with an actor that had been around for a while, or a director, or a producer, I would always, at some point early in our work together, or the film, or whatever it was, TV series, the actors had been around. One is particularly Ernest Borgnine, and Ernest Borgnine. I just said, what is your favorite story, your most fun, and what was the toughest time you've ever had? And that was with I've done that with Mr. Portier. I did that with Don Rickles. I did with people who became friends. And usually, I'd say 99% of the time, once they start to tell a story, they lead into another one, and then another one, and then another one. And it was like as I encourage my daughters and people, if I'm keynote speaking somewhere, I say, if you look around your grandparents or your great-grandparents, ask questions, film them when they're sharing stories. If you can, nowadays you have a phone, so you just do it with your phone. Because when they leave us, it's like a library burning down. There's a wealth of experience that they can share. It's incredible. I could tell you Ernest Borgnine stories when he did, From Here to Eternity with Frank Sinatra and with Montgomery Clift and Lee Marvin. No, Lee Marvin wasn't in it. But this, when you talk about Mr. Sinatra and you talk about Montgomery Clift, I mean, these are iconic stars in our business. And he said it was the first scene that he was doing. It's in the bar where Burt Lancaster, can't forget Burt, my favorite actor, Burt. And he breaks a glass bottle and he threatens him with it. And he said he was talking to the bar person working at the bar, and his back was to the set. And he said as he's talking, he keeps seeing the bartender go like this, looking to the side and then back and talking to him. And then he becomes aware of it getting quieter and quieter. And he turns around, and Mr. Sinatra's walking towards him. Now, Ernest Borgnine was a pretty big guy. And he said he's watching Sinatra gets closer and closer. Mr. Sinatra, looking at his feet, and gets up to her face, and he goes, "You're one big SOB." And that broke the ice. And then Ernest Borgnine said to me, he said, almost every night after that, I either had Sinatra on this shoulder and Monty on this shoulder because we had been out having a good time, and I would carry them home. And then he, the story to him, he and Burt Lancaster. Then he told me stories about when he was working on A Bad Day at Black Rock, and in that one there was Lee Marvin and there was Spencer Tracy. I mean, it was just an amazing cast. And shared with me that he was talking to Spencer Tracy. And Mr. Tracy said, you look kind of nervous. What's the matter? What's going on? He said, I've been asked to go do this interview in 2 days. I'm going to fly to New York. And I'm playing. He says, yes, so. He goes, well, it's this guy who's kind of a mama's boy, lives at home with mother. He's in his 40s, doesn't have a life. He's just very boring. And he said, I play these tough guys. I play these brutes. He goes, yeah, but you can do that. He goes, you're an actor. You can do it. And so he goes and does the reading and comes back. And so Mr. Tracy says, how did it go? He goes, I don't know. I think they like me. The movie was Marty, and he won the Academy Award.
You just never know, do you?
Yeah. And a little bit of history on that is that it was a Hecht Lancaster production. That's Burt Lancaster and Ben Hecht. They made the film for $50,000, and it was for a write-off. And the film made a lot of money, and Ernest Borgnine won the Academy Award. And then he had many, many stories after that. We don't have the time.
No, that will be part two.
Yeah.
You worked on Dallas with Joseph Campanella, played your father.
Yeah, my dad.
That's right.
He and his brother were always, I was fans of theirs. Because in the 70s and into the early 80s, 70s, these guys were working all the time. So when they said you worked with Campanella, I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, it just amazing. Just for me, that's someone I had, I'd seen, I watched growing up, and I could say it to him because I was playing my dad. I didn't say it to him though, but the fact that I was working with him for me was just a real thrill. It was a charge. It was great. It was great.
And that led into the whole storyline where we learned that the mafia. Did right. you? I looked through your IMDb you've been a very busy actor over the years.
Been blessed.
Yes. Did you ever get being Italian, being Brooklyn? Did you ever get typecast in mafia roles or?
The funny thing is that, I don't know if it's funny, that was the closest I played to being a wise guy or a mafia guy or a maid guy. In like I said, I'm very grateful in all the work that I've done. I might have played, to my memory, one other kind of mention that he's connected or a wise guy. But that, for some reason, I never went down that never happened to me. It just didn't happen, even though I'm half Sicilian. I'm Gaelic and Gaelic. I'm half Sicilian and half Irish. So But no, it's a great question, and people have asked me that before, but no, I didn't get loopholed that way at all. I got stuck with working with beautiful women because they made me the romantic lead. So I'm not complaining.
And you got to work with a dog in Tequila and Benetti.
I played a lot of Italians. That's true. Right about that.
Yes.
Working with, that was Don Belisario production, who was, made Tom Selleck a star, and all the NCIS shows and many, many other shows. Scott Bakula has done a bunch of his shows. And so, working with the dog was an experience. It was originally, they had the dogs Turner and Hooch dogs. And I guess something happened on the set, didn't work out with them. And then I replaced an actor, and they brought me in, and they lost the dog. So at the last minute, they had to replace that dog. I think it's called a French Broussard. And they had 3 dogs, and I think they were all a little bit challenged.
They say never work with pets, never work with animals and children.
W.C. Field said that.
Exactly.
And one dog was the running dog, one dog was the eating dog, and one dog was the dog that just kind of sat there and didn't do anything, but they could put his paw up on the side of the car like this, and he would drive like that for 20 minutes and never move. The 3 dogs, if you look very closely, didn't even resemble one another except for the breed and the color. There was about 20-pound difference in each dog. And one was a little bit slower than the other. But nonetheless, it was still great. It was a great concept. It was just kind of ahead of its time. It was a great show I loved doing. Worked with the great Charlie Rocket, and now someone who is a megastar, Mariska Hargitay.
Who was on Falcon Crest as well.
Right, that's right. But now she's a multi-Emmy winner and, just a megastar. And she was a sweetheart of a person, just a wonderful, wonderful lady. She was terrific. And Charlie Rocket was great, fun guy, the first guy to use the F word on television on Saturday Night Live.
Which Charlene was the host of that episode, and then he got fired for that. And
yes, he did. I didn't know about Charlene being the hostess of that.
And he ended up playing Omri Katz's father in Hocus Pocus.
That's right.
Which is now a cult classic, and I'll actually be working with the cast of Hocus Pocus when they visit Salem in a few weeks for their annual event with Omri Katz, Vanessa Shaw, Jason Marsden. You also did All My Children, so for 11 episodes.
No, for 2.5 years, not 11, 2.5 years.
2.5 years. Why are they? IMDb is garbage.
I don't know.
I don't know. And upcoming, you've got a few projects coming up here in development. Veterans Day.
Yeah.
The Case.
Veterans Day.
Yeah.
The Case. Becker's Farm.
And Birth of the Black Underworld. That just
Underworld. Yeah.
That just sounds very mysterious.
Yeah. Matty Rich directed it. He directed Straight Outta Brooklyn. Wonderful, wonderful director. And he put it together with his own money. And Frank Stallone is in it. And other talent. It's a period piece from the 40s. So in that one, I get to actually play a mafia boss. And I get to
see it.
Yes,
It's coming back. You can.
Yes, maybe I'll have more in the future.
That's right.
But I get to speak Italian in it. I get to, they let us ad lib. But Matty Rich is a great director, and they just had the premiere while I'm here on my vacation. While I've gone away for the first time in like 10 years. I'm here in Sweden.
Sweden,
Sweden, but they don't speak like that.
No. We have someone that's she works with our Ultimate Dallas website that is working on a Dallas documentary that is from Sweden. She's been trying to interview a lot of the cast before she starts editing. With that,
that's the kind of I've been still blessed. You know, they say someone says, "Jack, you retired?" I go, "Actors never retire. We're just in between jobs." That's all.
And Patrick calls Dallas the gift that keeps on giving.
That's right. What a blessing for all of those people, for all of us.
There was one.
We're here.
There was one gift that did not give. There was a movie in development called Demon Hunters that you were going to be in.
Yeah, I didn't give me any on that one.
Yeah, and then it was never completed. Did that start filming, or was that just in development and then they just?
You know what, Josh? To be honest with you, there are probably a lot of things that I'm supposed to be in that I don't have any idea about. Things started, they'll put the word out there. It's in development, and they're trying to attract either a director, a writer, a producer. Actually, it's always about the money. So, and you names get attached to names get attached to projects, and that's just the way it is. So we might have talked about it, and I said, well, it depends. Let me read the script. Who else is in it? Who's directing it? Well, what have the producers done? We ask those questions, and if there are names connected to it, then I may say, I can't speak for other actors. I may say, well, hey, put my name on it and let's see what happens. But nothing happens until you really talk to me or until you talk to my agent or manager. So,
that's right.
Otherwise, you can get hung out to dry.
So bringing it back now to next month, how did you get hooked into... I know this initially started with Josh Henderson and Mario de la Casa, who does all the paintings and the genie bottles. There's going to be a barbecue and then a concert from Josh Henderson, and then it just kind of started to grow exponentially. Now it's a full weekend affair, and
it could be for 2 months. Who knows?
I know. How did you get brought in? Did you somebody approach you, or did you approach them, or had you heard about it?
No, they came. Someone came to me. I would say her name, but I haven't asked permission to do that, so I can't say it. But she's representing or handling or corralling us, and she said, Jack, there's interest for you to do this. Would you like to do it? And I go, let me think about that. Yeah. So
as long as you don't get thrown off the balcony into the pool.
I don't care if it's the second floor. I'm good.
Oh, okay. Yes.
I love the second floor stuff. Then I would call Pat Banter, who was my stunt guy for years and did Bond for many, many years. Company Broccoli produced, Bond movies. And but that's what I would say, Pat. And but otherwise, it was just, are you interested? Yes, of course I am. We started the interview to be with the people that I loved working with, had a great experience, and had success with it. And that's like Patrick said, it's the gift that keeps giving.
Yes.
And it's been 37 years since I was there, and as things, when we were younger, things looked much bigger. So I want to see if it still holds true as we get older. We get there and it's much smaller. But I don't know if that's going to happen. But it was just a simple request, and why not?
Right.
I get to people I had a wonderful experience with.
And you get to interact with the fans that you, I know this.
Yes.
I know you said Burbank was the first one that you'd done?
It was the second one. The first one that I did was probably 10 years ago. And it was like, I'd always kind of shied away from them. Not that I didn't want to be there or be part of it. It's just something in me that it was almost like, why me? Why me? And then when we did the Burbank one and I heard the people that were going to be there, it was like, why not me? I knew that Stephanie Kramer was going to be there. Stephanie and I.
Fred Dreyer.
Fred Dreyer was going to be there. And they of course, did the hit show Hunter. And for me, when I did the TV series with Rock, the Devlin Connection, Stephanie was one of the first guests. When I did the show with well, I'll think of her name. And it's Lisa. No, but it was called High Performance, and it was kind of like a Clairol commercial of the A-Team. You just had Lisa, like Johnny. Okay, anyway,
I'm looking.
go ahead, look. Yeah, okay, she's married. She's married to Clint Black, the great
Lisa Hartman from Knots Landing.
Lisa, right, the great. Yeah, she married to Clint Black, the great country western singer. So it was Lisa Taylor, and then a young guy, blonde, that was a really very handsome man, and there was a man. So it was this. And Stephanie Kramer guest starred on that, and then she guest starred on another show. Then we did a couple of movies together. So Stephanie's always been like a good pal of mine. So
Well,
I knew she was there. Who else? Let me look it up. I'll just keep talking.
Yeah, no, I came across Behringer's, which had Art Hindle in it, who played Art Hindle, who played Jeff Faraday on Dallas. See, it's 6 Degrees of Dallas. Everything comes back to
that. And also Cesar Romero played my father in that. Everybody knows Cesar Romero as the Riddler from Batman, the TV show Batman.
And then Jane Wyman's husband on Falcon Crest.
Right. But people always say, "Oh, Batman, you had the show Bing Pow Poo, that one." And Cesar Romero was one of the first great Latin lover stars during the 30s through the 40s and then 50s. But he was, now that's a person who told me stories that are just amazing, because he went to Hollywood in 1928. And so,
1928. Wow.
We came out of the Sherry Netherlands, which is a very posh hotel on the corner of 59th and 5th in Manhattan. And we were staying at the Ritz on Central Park South. And the doors, we came down the elevator after having a party. There was a cocktail party. I didn't drink. But everybody was gathered up in the suite of, I can't think of the producer's name, but the other great actor that was on there, and he left us much too early. But anyway, we came down the elevator doors opened. He took a step, he stopped, and he smiled to himself. And I said, "Cesar, what was that all about?" He said, "What?" I said, "The doors opened, he took a step, he smiled, he stopped, he smiled, and then he proceeded." He goes, "Oh, the last time I came out of there, 2 of my dearest friends were coming out of there, going into the elevator." I said, "Who was that?" He goes, "Douglas Fairbanks Jr. and Lillian Gish." And I was like, "Are you kidding? What? Stop. Then we went outside. And we stopped I said, "Stop." We're on the corner of 59th and 5th. I go, "What year was it?" I said, 1928. I said, "Tell me 1928 on this corner." And then he said, all of the cars were black. Men had their suits on, a fedora. Women's dresses were down around just above their ankles, at the bottom of their calves. He said, and it was like I said, at this time of the day, it was like 6 o'clock. The sun was setting. It was in the fall. It was beautiful. He said, you would see some people dressed in their top hat and tails, women dressed to the nines, and they were on their way to the theater. And I go, "Yeah, okay, keep going." And then he said, "You see that building there?" I go, "Yes." He goes, "There used to be a big terrace there. Now there's apartments." He said, "And that's where I was discovered." He goes, "It was called Paloma y Romero." He goes, "I was discovered as a flamenco dancer." And I was like, "You got to be kidding me." And then we got to the hotel, and we're overlooking Central Park. And he says, this time in 1928, the reservoir where everybody runs around was empty. People were living in it, and Tent City was the park was full of tents, and that's where people lived during the Great Depression.
Oh, wow.
And he went on to tell me stories in 1928 and what it was like on Laurel Canyon in Hollywood. And he said, the homes that are there now weren't there. He said, most of the people in the industry had their hunting lodges on Laurel Canyon, which Laurel Canyon became famous during the 60s and the flower era, the flower power and all of that. He said, those were hunting lodges up there. And he talked about then he told me the William Hearst stories when they would go out to the William Hearst Castle. And there was only one road. Highway 1 was the only road that went out.
Oh, I went up that road. I think we saw it.
Yeah, and it's still there,
Yeah.
but now you have freeway. You have the 101 and the 405 and the 5. But now, then it was only the one. He said he would send in 20 to 30 limos. All of the actresses and actors would be in there. And he said there was any kind of alcohol you wanted, marijuana, Coke. He said, and
Not the soda people.
It was still in the soda at the time.
Oh, it was.
That's why it was cola. That's why people love drinking. True story.
Oh, yeah.
And so he's like an 8-hour drive. He says you can get loaded and sober up by the time you get there, because William Randolph Hearst was a teetotaler, and he didn't allow drinking in his where he was sitting around him. But he had so I say, okay, tell me a night there. And he said, I usually sat next to Joan and Betty. So it's Joan Crawford and Betty Davis.
Who had that nasty feud later on.
Right. And did that film together. But anyway, but then there was Clark Gable, and it was Errol Flynn and Basil Rathbone. And the names just on and on. And at the end of one table was William Randolph Hearst, and at the other one was Marion Davies, his paramour. That was the one who basically you could say that the movie, can't think of it right now, but he did it. He directed it when he was 23 years old. He played the titan of industry, bought all the newspapers, but that was supposed to be William Randolph Hearst. And I think was Barbara Bel Geddes in that movie. I think yes, she was. Citizen Kane.
Oh, yeah, Orson Welles, yeah.
Welles, and he said William Randolph would sit at one end and Marion Davies would sit at the other one. Now, Marion Davies was his paramour. She was a very smart woman, bought a lot of property in Santa Monica and Los Angeles, and she's the one who bailed William Randolph Hearst out of losing all his money. She sold the jewelry and her real estate. So that's the story I heard. But from my time sitting with Cesar Romero, and we remained friends up to the end, and he was just an amazing, amazing man. Amazing.
Wow.
So that's just, and then if I think of another actor's name or an actress's name, then there's more stories out of that. So
right.
Anyway,
well, have you
Barbara Bel? She was in Citizen Kane, if I remember correctly.
I'd have to look that up.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll get she mixed up with another great star. So.
Wow. And I remember watching Citizen Kane. And then we had to watch it in a film class, and I had somewhere else I wanted to be that night. So I sat in the back of the room. As soon as the movie started, I said, Rosebud is a sled. And everybody turned around and they go, you can leave now. Oh, God. We could go on and on. What's that?
You remind me of Paul Giamatti.
Really?
You remind me of Paul Giamatti, yeah. Compliment.
Oh, well, thank you. We can talk more about that at Southfork, because we could go on all day with these stories. We'll have to have you on for part 2 of this at some point.
But about the barbecue, how exciting is that? I mean, this is bringing us back together again. We get to relive and the experiences we had, and we get to create the new one. We get to do that with the people who have been associated, familiar, love the movie, love the TV series, hung in there for all those years with them, and it's a barbecue, it's a shindig, it's a hoedown. It's like fun.
And you can't have a Ewing Barbecue without the Ewing Barbecue Podcast. And we'll be down there. We'll be down there filming everything. We'll be doing some lives. I plan on bringing my drone and getting some footage from above.
Nice.
And
you couldn't do that before?
No, you couldn't. And what, as we wrap up, what is the message that you want to give to fans, and what is the enduring legacy of Dallas, and why does it keep going on and on?
Well, it's like someone, like right now, I'm not a Dodger fan, although when they were in Brooklyn, I was a Dodger fan. But you get this kid, Shohei Ohtani, hits 50 home runs, steals 50 bases.
10 RBIs the other night?
Yeah, he was 6 for 6. And that's Ruthian, and that only happens really once in a lifetime. So you have Dallas, once in a lifetime. The Godfathers, once in a lifetime. The first two movies. The third, I don't know. But but they were once in a lifetime experiences, and Dallas was a once in a lifetime experience. I forget the number of viewers they had per week, but it was up in 30 million, or it was up there. And no shows do that anymore. A show will stay on the air for 10 years if they have 10 million viewers. So you have Dallas, a once in a lifetime experience, with the hair, with the shoulders, with the women, with the guys, with the talent, with JR and, Sue Ellen, Patrick. That's a once in a lifetime experience. And people, when you think 10 years, that's a generation. So you could have kids who started watching when they were 15. They were watching when they were 25. Someone who was 30 watched it when they were 40, 42. When you go the whole length of the run. So it was cross generational. The writing, the producing, the show itself was just outrageous in so many ways. Did things where somebody can be dead and come back and say, "Oh, it was a dream. It was all a dream." No one had ever done that before.
And they took a lot. They took a lot of heat for that, and then
more people watched it.
But it set a precedent, because if they hadn't done that, I don't think St. Elsewhere would have been in the mind of the autistic boy.
Right.
And even that, a lot of shows traced to St. Elsewhere, and someone came up with a website that said none of these things exist even down to today, except in the mind of that autistic kid, because they all trace back to St. Elsewhere. And then you had the most famous one was Newhart, which ended with Bob waking up with Suzanne Plachette. In bed, yes.
Right. You see, but when you look at a show that's as iconic as Dallas, it becomes, what's the ripple effect? And for the fans, rabid fans. As hopefully we'll experience once again when we're at Southfork.
And these people come from around the world, so it's
right, exactly, and so that's unheard of. There's almost very few shows relatable to that today. However, you looked at what they did, producing wise, directing wise, writing wise, story creation, were firsts. And who held a viewing audience, a nation viewing audience, from one season to the next on Who Shot JR? There were parties, huge parties. There were the London gamblers, the bettors. It was, at that time, it was all precedent setting, never done before. No one ever heard of it. The energy around it, the excitement around it came off of Dallas, Who Shot JR. And just the ripple effects of what it did for the industry, the new shows it created, the jobs it gave to people within our industry, how it started careers that for many people, me included, but it went on. And I'll tell you about my experience on Dallas. It was 1987. I was 37 years old. Just had my then wife, Karen, we just had our first child. And it was Howard Duff gave my daughter a pink box, like a dowry box. We still have, for the birth of my daughter Olivia.
That was Howard Duff, you said?
Yep.
And he was on Dallas, and he was on Knots Landing.
Yeah. But on Dallas is when I met him.
Right.
But he gave us a beautiful pink box. It was engraved and painted and everything. Still have it to this day. So, but you look at the ripple effect of it, from the producing, the directing, the shows themselves, the style, and the things that it did that hadn't been done on television before. Now you have two generations, 3 generations of people who grew up watching that. It was like passing something on, and now through that, because of them, we're going to go and have our hoedown, our shindig, at the barbecue and Dallas barbecue, the Southfork barbecue. And as you said, people from all over the world are coming, and we're going to have that shared experience together. It doesn't get better than that in this industry.
No, it doesn't. And it even came back for 3 years, back in 2012, and then it just keeps going. And I know Josh Henderson is very appreciative. He grew up watching the show. Were you a viewer before you were on? Did you know much about it?
No, I was still trying to get work. Yes. I know I was very aware of it because who wasn't? I watched it just to familiarize myself with it. I think Behringer's was even probably a runoff of that, as was a lot at that time. It was just for me, but I wanted to tell you that when I did in 1987, when I did the show, and I thought about it, and someone, I forget who it was, I was in an interview, and they asked me about my experience there. I said, I started working in the business. My first job was 1981, and I think it was 81 into 82 was my first really series with Rock Hudson, the Devlin Connection. I always doubted my work, always doubted. I was always in my head. I don't know, I didn't pay my dues, and I didn't suffer enough. And Father Bodrin, who was my priest at the church that I went to in Manhattan, and I said, I don't know if I deserve this, and going into the industry. He goes, Jack, God wouldn't put it in your life if he didn't think you deserved it. So you deserve it. But I still didn't get it. But in 1987, after working on Dallas, I had that first thought, I think I can be okay in this business. I think I got my chops on this one. And so for me, it was more than just the working and the experience of it. It was something that happened into me emotionally and spiritually, and as a person and as an actor. And I went, maybe I haven't arrived, but the door's really open. I saw myself as I can do this. That's what I'm very grateful for, Dallas.
Well, Larry Hagman throws you off a balcony. You definitely have arrived, and you even made an appearance in the series finale, first series finale.
Right.
You came back, and there was that whole "It's Not a Wonderful Life" scenario for JR, but
Right.
It was kind of odd that Nick and Sue Ellen would still have ended up meeting, even if JR had not been part of that equation.
Well, maybe, but I was excited to be part of it, and it was great to be on the set and be with all of those people. And this time, JR was on the other side, so it was like my payback. It was my payback.
Right.
Not really. I didn't look at it like that. It was just like, I'm so happy to be here.
And you got to work with Joel Grey in that episode as well.
That's right. You want to talk about a talent, Joel Grey. I only got to meet him once, just like I only got to meet Sammy Davis Jr. once. But Joel Grey, that's that talent.
Yeah.
That's it. That's a measurable talent.
And I always knew him growing up as the narrator of the "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" cartoon from Rankin Bass. Yeah, so this is going to be a great event. And one last question. We'll end on a little humor here.
Okay.
For all of those out there that were wondering, tell them what the gagoots are.
The gagoots, they're in the garden. The gagoots is in the garden. Eggplant. I don't know what gagoots is.
Okay.
Yeah, good eggplant. That's Melignani, but gagoots is the gourds, the
zucchinis.
Yeah. Zucchinis. Grazie. See.
Okay.
Gagoots.
I always that line always stuck with me because Mom, I get you the gagoots when you were on the show. There.
You have to say with the Brooklyn dialect that's with the Italian. It's either napolitan. You can say gagoots.
Oh.
Where are you taking? Dove prende con le gagoots? Where are you going with the gagoots?
With the gagoots, and now on the podcast is when we're going to say arrivederci to everybody, and we'll see everybody at Southfork in just over a month. We'll be celebrating Josh Henderson's birthday, by the way, October 25th. So Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Ewing Barbecue Podcast. Look for upcoming episodes with Patrick Duffy and Linda Gray. Joan Van Ark will be joining us, and possibly Mario De La Casa and Jenna Lee Harrison. So stay tuned.
Make sure you say hello to them all for me. And isn't it amazing how great all of these women look and how handsome the guys still are since they met without me? But when you think about it, when I went there and someone said, "Jack, look at everybody," I said, "We all look the same. Just the hair got a little bit of a different color to it." That's it.
That's it.
That's how special it is.
It is, yes. And thanks for joining us again. So y'all come back now. You hear?